Chapter 5. Burning Bridges.
Nothing,
Monty quietly says to the team. Monty, Simon, and myself have been in hiding for several hours now. We've been waiting patiently for the arrival of the dojo lieutenants. I know they'll never come, though. They were killed last night by the orc named Goldar. We're wasting time.
I don't like waiting. It's not my style,
Simon says while biting his lower lip in irritation. If you'd like, I can scout it out for us, I reply. Monty begins stroking his chin in contemplation. I can almost read his thoughts. He's probably thinking,
If we scout it out, it could ruin the entire operation. But what if they're already here? Maybe his source isn't as reliable as he thinks. No, too many variables.
Monty looks back at the two of us and nods toward me.
A few more minutes. If nothing happens by then, we'll send you.
I nod my head, and we continue to observe the scene. Minutes go by, and nothing happens. It's late, probably sometime after 10, and the streets are completely empty. This part of town brings back memories of my childhood. At first glance, the empty ruins of the poor district would appear to be a ghetto. To me as a child, though, this place was a jungle. I spent many summers playing in these slums. My friends and I would run building to building, hiding from each other and playing war games. We even had the occasional street brawl. Most children rode horses and went on family picnics for fun. But for us, fun had a different meaning. The silence shifts from tension to boredom. Simon lets out a sigh and then looks my way with curiosity.
So, what's your deal?
I raise a brow to the question. My deal? Simon lifts both brows and then blinks several times in irritation.
Yeah, your deal.
Where are you from? What do you do for work?
You know, your story.
I sit down on the ledge of the rooftop. I think over my life, the adventures I've had, the terrible things I've done. What is my story? I feel like I've been living someone else's for so long that I've forgotten my own.
Well,
Simon says with eagerness. I let out a sigh and then look back to him. Well, I grew up in the city. My father was a carpenter and my mother was a knitter. Most of my childhood was pretty good. We always had food on the table, and every time my father sold something, we celebrated. Simon sits down on the ledge as well. He keeps his distance, though, and maintains his focus on the dojo.
So, how'd a kid like you end up like this?
Oh, you mean a thief? I reply.
Yeah,
Simon says quietly, almost as if to avoid insulting me. Well, my father was eventually called to fight in the Great War. My mother was also selected to serve as a field nurse. Apparently, her stitching skills were quite useful for mending wounds.
I bet you were proud,
Monty says softly. The swordsman lowers his lids at the thought. I can see it on his face. Monty knows the heartache war can bring. Regardless of whatever country he came from, I'm sure the feelings are all the same. I am, I reply.
So, then what?
Simon says. Then they died. I say with a shrug of my shoulders. When the war ended and the soldiers returned home, a captain from one of my father's units found me and delivered a letter.
What did it say?
Monty cuts off the conversation and stands on the ledge.
That'll have to wait. It's time. Desmond, take lead.
He takes a step off the rooftop. He falls toward the street and gracefully lands on his feet. "Right," I reply. I slide down the side of the abandoned building and tumble as soon as I hit the ground. I look back, and to my surprise, I see Simon struggling to climb down.
"Damn weirdos. Not trying to break my freaking legs,"
Simon utters to himself underneath his breath. Monty and I both smile slightly, trying to hold back chuckles. I signal for Monty to wait before crossing the street. Finding the shadowy gap between the street lamps, I swiftly cross. I might not be in my guild outfit, but the green cloak and the dark tricorn hat still help to conceal me. I carefully approach the entrance. It's an older, well-kept building. The walls are made from cedar, with box pattern trim covering the entire front. On the wall above the front door is a sign that reads, Earth Mountain Dojo. It's beautiful, and crafted with bold writing. Approaching the front door, I'm careful to look for traps. Knowing this group like I do, I wouldn't put it past them to have built-in alarms. The entrance door has an uncommon design to it. It bears the dojo symbol of a mountain, and it's made from a similar wood as the exterior walls. What's most unique about it, though, is that it's a sliding door with no handles. However, it does have a lock. Taking my time, I look at every inch to ensure that it isn't more than it appears. I lightly touch it and attempt to slide it open. It moves. To my surprise, the front door isn't even locked. Why would he leave it open? Is Mason that confident? The more the door opens, the more blood rushes to my head. My heart pounds faster, and my breathing becomes harder to control. Normally, I love these moments. They can almost be euphoric. This time is different, though. This time, I have more than myself to look after. The door opens completely, and nothing. The building is entirely empty. It's an interesting facility, though. It has a massive open space, much larger than it appears from the outside. The floors are made from a strange material. It's strong, but appears to have some level of give to it. Swords, knives, spears, and staffs hang from the walls. It almost looks similar to the training facilities the guild has. I turn to Monty and Simon and motion for them to join me. After sprinting across the street one at a time, they enter the building with me. Simon's face reveals a degree of confusion.
"This place doesn't look like anything from around here."
"That's because it's not,"
Monty replies.
"This building holds many similarities to my village. However, whoever this Mason is, he must have a great deal of knowledge regarding my home country."
I look at Monty, glaring at him quizzically. In what country might that be?
"It's not important,"
Monty replies while moving further away to investigate. I suppose I'll have to accept that answer for now, pushing the handful of questions I have into the back of my mind. I follow suit and search the room. After several minutes, Monty does something that strikes me as odd. He pulls out his sword and deeply inhales. I have seen him do this before. The image of a sword passing by my face briefly comes to mind. Is he using magic? Maybe it's some form of divination. Can he track people? Monty moves throughout the room, lightly tapping his sword to the ground.
"Hey! What are you doing?"
Simon says with a dumbfounded look. I look to Simon and then shift my eyes back to Monty. I was wondering the same thing. What are you doing, Monty?
"Shh! Quiet!"
Monty replies. Simon and I shift our eyes toward each other and then look back at him, waiting for something to happen. The light tapping sounds suddenly shift in tone as Monty taps down on a hollow point in the floor. The swordsman lifts his eyes from the ground and stares at us.
Many dojos that are constructed like this have compartments underneath the floor for storage.
He carefully pries at the floorboard with his fingers and lifts it up, revealing a door with a lock on it.
Holy shit,
Simon says. How the hell did you find that? I say in surprise. Monty kneels down, examining the lock carefully.
Can you open it? I don't think I can break this.
I walk over and inspect it. It's a sturdy, large adamantine lock that's been built into the frame itself. Shit. My eyes open wide, and a sense of fear begins to surge throughout my veins. The last thing I want to do is touch this lock.
You can't do it?
Monty asks. I can. Probably, I reply. Looking at me, Monty begins to grow concerned as he sees my face turn white.
Then, what's the problem? You look like you've seen your father naked.
I look at him with a flat-eyed stare. Bro, where are you from again? Monty lets out a slight laugh.
Seriously though, what's the problem?
I take a second look at the lock again. There's just no way. Every bone in my body wants to refute its existence. After another careful look, I can't deny it. The red engraved crown on the center of the lock is perfectly sized and placed. Our mission might end here.
What do you mean?
Simon replies in frustration.
Look, I got paid good money to do this. I can finally get out of debt and start living normal again. If you can't pick this lock, I'll break it down myself.
Simon cracks his knuckles and starts walking toward the door. If you do that, you'll kill us all, I reply. My remark cuts the room like a blade. Monty leans in closer, looking at it once again. I point to the symbol on the lock. You see the symbol? Monty nods his head. This is no normal lock. The symbol is placed here for a reason. It's a symbol that's only used by masters of the locksmith guild. These locks are very dangerous. One mistake could put this entire place up in flames. Simon punches the floor beneath him, leaving a large dent.
You gotta be kidding me!
Monty lets out a sigh and rubs his temples in frustration.
But you said you might be able to.
I nod my head. It's possible. I've dealt with these locks before, but none are made the same. Monty leans back and takes a seat. He hugs his legs and begins biting his thumbnail in contemplation. Seconds pass as Simon and I wait for an answer.
Do it.
I nod my head again and reach into a pouch on the back of my belt. Before pulling my tools out, I stop and look at my companions. You two might want to leave. Monty sternly shakes his head no.
If we go out together.
You do realize that makes no sense, right? I ask. Monty nods his head.
If you can steal a coin purse from a paladin, I'm really not too worried.
Simon looks at us both with a look of shock and confusion.
Well, you two can get blown up if you'd like, but I'm out of here.
1,000.
Monty cuts him off.
If you stay, I'll give you an extra 1,000 gold.
Simon's eyes light up and his attitude instantly changes.
Well, let's bust it open.
He takes a seat next to Monty, and I proceed to take my tools out. Unrolling them onto the ground, I eye the lock carefully. I look at my tension tools and take my time to deliberately choose the right size. Delicately placing it into the keyhole, I lightly apply pressure to the lock. Simon watches me warily as I search through my picks. Removing one, I place it into the keyhole with precision. While tension builds between us and blood rushes to my forehead, time seems to slow down. An intense heat overtakes me as I sprint through dozens of memories of different locks. I start scraping. The sound of the door unlocking brings a waterfall of relief over me. Monty lets out a sigh while Simon leans forward and places his forehead to the ground.
Thank God.
I stumble back and take a seat. Trying to relax myself, I start taking deep breaths. I wipe the sweat from my forehead and a warmth covers me. This time, it's not nerves, but pride. As I told them, I've dealt with these locks before, but no lock is the same. All those years of training have really paid off. Monty reaches down and grabs the handle to the door. His face shifts to something dark and serious. I'm once again faced with the beast from before. I can see it. It's a dark animal with fangs hanging over him, urging him forward. Chills move down my spine before the image fades and I'm brought back to reality.
You both ready?
Simon and I nod our heads. I pull out my dagger and he pulls out his billy club. The door opens and reveals a long set of stone stairs that leads into a pit of darkness. I look at it in astonishment. I never would have thought Mason to have built something like this without us knowing. Where could it lead? What was he planning? A tunnel, I say with an awe-dropped jaw. Before anyone has time to fully comprehend what this could mean, Monty steps onto the staircase and begins his descent. Simon looks at Monty and then looks back at me.
After you, buddy.
I give him a side-eyed stare with a flat smile. Thanks. We begin our journey into the darkness. After reaching the bottom of the stairs, we find a study. The area has a table with papers scattered across it. It also has a map of the city on the wall, with black X's scattered throughout it. To the right of the map is a large family portrait. There are 3 men in the photo, with a single older woman sitting down in a chair. It's dark, too dark to see anything clearly.
Let's go,
Monty says. Ignoring the study for now, we press forward. Within several hundred feet, we make our first turn and find something to be very concerning. There's no light anywhere. No torches, candles, or lanterns. This isn't good, I say with concern in my voice.
We'll be okay. Just make sure you're touching the right wall,
Monty replies. 10 minutes pass, and so far, we're still lost in the dark. From what I can tell, we've only taken 2 turns. We started facing north, then east, then north again. The mountains? Why would Mason have a tunnel this long leading toward the mountains? I shake my head, trying to regain my focus. Regardless of the reason, this isn't an intel mission. I'm here to kill. As we continue down the dark cavern, minutes pass. Part of me keeps thinking there's a possibility of a trap. Maybe he knew we were coming, or maybe we triggered an alarm. There could be parts of this tunnel with carved out sections for his men to hide in. How could we know? Monty speaks up, as if he read my mind.
Don't worry. We're definitely on someone's trail.
How can you tell? I can't see shit,
Simon says.
Just trust me,
Monty replies. The reassurance doesn't help. About 10 minutes later, we spot a light in the far-off distance. Slowing our approach, Monty looks back at me and points his thumb toward the light.
Desmond, go on ahead,
he whispers. I move past him and proceed with extreme caution. With each step, I close in on my target. Barely making a sound, I've effectively made myself part of the tunnel. After several dozen yards, I see him. A bald man with the head of a dragon on the back of his neck. He's wearing loose black clothing with a black belt around his waist. On the center of his back is a large white circle with a blue mountain running across it. He's sitting in a meditative position on a long, slim bridge. The walls of the cave are dimly lit by a vast amount of glowing crystals. There are hundreds of them in many different colors and shades. It's a tranquil scene as drops of water fall from the ceiling. The monk is relaxed and has his back toward the tunnel, toward us. With him completely exposed, I have the perfect opportunity. My hand inches toward a concealed throwing dagger in my sleeve. Is this the right way, though? To kill him like this? No. No fatal blows. I can't raise suspicion. I take my hand away and motion for Monty and Simon to approach silently. They're not experts by any means, but they'd give any recruit a run for their money. A few seconds later, they catch up. He hasn't moved, I say while pointing toward Mason. Monty draws his sword, and Simon draws a second billy club for his offhand.
Simon and I will take it from here. This bridge is too small for the three of us.
Sounds good. I'll cover, I say while drawing 3 throwing knives from the back of my belt.
You're not going to hit me with that, are you?
Only if you piss me off, I reply with a mischievous smile. Monty and Simon nod to each other and move forward.
So, how do you want to play this?
Simon asks with a cocky look on his face. Monty takes off in a full sprint with his sword at his side.
Never mind then,
Simon says to himself in annoyance before taking off after him. As the two rush in with lightning speed, Mason refuses to move, or even acknowledge their presence. Before Monty can make it to the monk, a knife flies between him and Simon. It barely misses both their heads. Simon slightly jerks to the right, while Monty, however, doesn't move. He's calm and focused. There isn't anything in this world right now that can take away his attention. You've got to be kidding me, I quietly remarked to myself in disbelief. My knife bounced off his back. How? It was a perfect shot! While I remain hidden in the shadows of the cave, with a stunned look on my face, Monty strikes. With a massive downward swing, his sword slams into Mason's right shoulder. The impact echoes throughout the cavern. Following the strike, Monty flips in front of him. As he turns to face the monk, Simon comes in from behind. After landing 2 strikes to the back of Mason's head, Simon jumps back several feet. The scene is tense as Simon and Monty carry expressions of both aggression and concern. Mason didn't move an inch, nor did he even react to the blows. Without the use of his hands, the monk slowly rises to his feet. Terror begins to overtake Simon as he takes another step back.
Well, what the hell are you? Your strikes are well placed, but like the drive to kill.
Turning to Simon, he opens his eyes for the first time. They're a deep blue, almost as deep as the ocean. Even though he can't see me, they still manage to pierce my confidence.
It's clear to me you plan on taking me alive. Can I assume that pesky Roland sent you?
Without hesitation, Monty ignores the idle conversation and swiftly closes the distance. With his sword at his side and a massive battle cry, he swings. Mason calmly lowers his left arm to block and hops upward. On contact, a shockwave cracks and a wall of force follows the sword. As Monty presses further with his strike, Mason rolls over the wooden edge. When the monk's feet return to the ground, he launches a right palm strike. Monty sees it coming and accelerates his spin. At the last second, he He manages to raise his sword to block. What Monty wasn't prepared for, though, was the feint. Instead of a strike with the palm of his hand, Mason grabs hold of his sword. In one fluid motion, he pulls the swordsman in and sends a left fist into his gut. All air escapes his lungs, and strands of saliva shoot out from his mouth. The monk follows through with the right fist. Monty's flesh and jaw seem to wrap around Mason's knuckles. The force is strong enough to send him flying 10 feet in the other direction. His body twists in the air, and he lands on his face, skidding across the stone bridge. Simon was right to ask, what the hell are we fighting? This monk is far from ordinary. He has skills and experience, but there's something much more to him.
Eat shit!
Not giving Mason time to rest, Simon launches a flurry of attacks. With the grace and agility of a woodland animal, the monk dodges every swipe with ease. With only his hands, the monk parries back-to-back swipes from the clubs and strikes back with a front kick to the chest. Simon slides back several feet, and he's immediately struck by a barrage of attacks. As the assault ends, Simon stands there, frozen. His body begins to shake uncontrollably, and blood flows down from his nose and mouth. He falls to his knees and collapses.
Before I kill you, I'd like to know, were you the one that killed my men?
Reaching down, the monk grabs Simon by his hair and tilts his head back. Simon spits blood at Mason's face. The monk's left eye twitches as he wipes the spit off.
Very well then,
Mason says with a look of irritation. Now! With 2 daggers in hand, I launch them both consecutively. With lightning reflexes, Mason releases his grasp on Simon and dodges the first blade. Catching it, he spins to throw it back at me. What he hadn't anticipated was the second one, which is now inches from his face. In the last fraction of a second, he adjusts his head and my knife barely grazes his cheek. As the blade passes by, the monk launches my knife back at me. It's fast, way faster than anything I've trained for. Even though it was thrown by hand, I could have sworn it was shot by a cannon. Not having time to be subtle with my movements, the knife forces me to jump from the shadows and roll into the open.
So that's what you look like. Welcome,
Mason says with a smile. I regain my composure and draw my short sword. Well, it looks like it's just us, I say with a smirk. As I begin my approach, Simon forces himself to his feet and steps back. With black welts and torn clothing, he almost looks dead.
Hey now, don't count me out just yet.
Behind Mason, Monty begins coughing up a storm as he struggles to lift himself up. This is good. Well, this is good for how bad this situation could be. The fact that I managed to cut him means this battle's already over. On each of my throwing knives, I have their edges coated with a unique poison. It takes several minutes to take effect, but once it works through his system, he's done. To everyone here, it'll look like a heart attack.
You're persistent fools. I will say, it's been years since I've been cut.
Mason says while wiping the blood from his cheek.
I assumed I wouldn't need to use my full strength. However, out of respect for your roguish friend, I'll make the exception.
A demonic smile stretches across Mason's face as a visible aura surrounds him. The cavern begins to dim, and his eyes shift from a deep blue to a pure black. Sparks of electricity shoot off his body and snap in the air. He claps his hands together and inhales deeply. As he inhales, traces of magical aura flow into him. When he reaches his limit, he exhales slowly. With each round of breathing, his body grows denser and more refined. As he continues, his skin begins to shine and his feet sink into the earth beneath him. I can feel the pressure emanating off his body. I've never felt magic like this. It's enough to force Simon to step back. Finally, he stops and stands confidently. He's relaxed and almost begs an attack.
I'm the head of my dojo and master of the Earth Mountain School of Martial Arts. I am both a skilled warlock and a master of hand-to-hand combat. I've spent 20 years perfecting this technique. I call it Diamond Skin.
Concern not only enshrouds the face of Simon, but me as well. What good will poisoning this guy do if I die before it hits him? I really need to have a word with Alexander about these wait times. I try my best to formulate a plan. Running isn't an option. Simon and Monty are too weak to escape. I could try summoning a demon. There are a lot of risks with that.
Well, come on. Don't keep me waiting.
I lean in closer to Simon, hoping we can scrape together some type of strategy.
Don't look at me, man. I'm barely managing to stand as it is. You have any bright ideas?
I shake my head. I've got one more throwing knife and a smoke bomb. I think it's safe to assume my knives are useless. The bomb might be able to give us enough time to escape, but... I look over at Monty. He's still on both knees, trying to pull himself together.
Yeah, we're not leaving him.
Simon replies. Agreed. Mason takes a step forward, and the floor cracks beneath his foot. The sound of his step reminds me of a giant. He not only packs serious armor, but a great deal of weight, too.
Well then, if you're not coming to me, I'll just come to you!
Mason shouts while taking off in a full charge. He's much slower than before, but his attacks are far stronger. Swinging his right fist directly at my face, I lift my sword to block. His fist slides off with ease, but the pressure that follows is enough to lift me off the ground. Mason quickly uses his momentum to twist his body and swing his leg around to strike my blade a second time. The force from the kick sends me flying. I have zero control. I try to adjust my body for a tumble, but the air pressure is just too much. I crash and land in the tunnel, dragging my body through the dirt and peeling back layers of skin as I go. With stinging pain coursing through my body, I gradually try lifting myself up and fall forward. My arm isn't just not working, it's broken in half. My face trembles as I scream in pain. My fucking arm! I say with a quivering voice. Searching the dark tunnel floor, I eventually find my blade and pick it up with my left hand. I'm gonna kill this son of a bitch! My blood boils as rage consumes me. I want him dead, more than anything now. Fuck poisoning this guy. I want his head. As I emerge from the shadows of the tunnel once again, I immediately arrive to a sight of horror. With a flat hand, Mason had successfully cleaved off Simon's entire right arm. Blood sprays uncontrollably as he turns to me. What strikes me as odd, though, is that Simon doesn't appear to be afraid. As a matter of fact, he looks confident.
No!
As Simon shouts to me, he grabs onto the monk's wrist with his left hand. He pulls Mason toward him as he rolls backward. As they both fall toward the ground, Simon wraps and locks his legs around the monk's head. Seeing the opening, I launch myself forward with a speed I've never felt. Feinting to the right, Mason lifts his arm to guard. The last second before I make contact, I leap toward his open left. Swinging my short sword backhanded with all my strength, I hit. It was a clean strike, and I land behind him. All hope is instantly stripped from me as half my blade impales itself into the dirt in front of me. I turn and look to Mason. Veins burst from his head as his body turns red in anger.
You still don't get it, do you?
Mason shouts while lifting Simon off the ground and slamming him into the bridge. Cracks erupt from the impact as he spits up blood.
You're already dead.
The monk's eyes are cold, dark, and savage. There's no way we'll survive this. I only have one option left. I place my finger into the dirt and begin drawing a summoning circle.
Sorry that took so long.
A voice emerges from behind me. With a massive hole in his shirt and a bloody face, it's Monty, and he's standing.
I needed a few minutes to think.
Mason turns back to Monty with a flat-eyed stare.
Think on what? I'm curious. What does a beaten man like you intend to do?
Monty kicks off his sandals and pushes them to the side.
Can I be honest with you?
Mason continues to watch as Monty gives a few vertical test swings with his sword.
I absolutely hate this technique.
The indigo-haired swordsman takes a wide power stance and digs his feet into the ground. Raising his sword above and behind his head, he waits.
Simon, you can let him go now. You've done well.
With barely any life remaining, Simon releases his hold on Mason. The wounded man's hands fall to the ground as his blood continues to pour out. He doesn't have long.
So, it comes down to this, eh? My bold charge against your overhead strike? Sounds fun.
Mason readies himself to charge. His feet dig into the ground, and the whole bridge begins to shake. Blue and purple energy clashes like opposing winds as the two prepare for one final attack. With one last deep inhale, Mason charges. Each step sends cracks throughout the ground. I'm not certain the bridge will hold for much longer. As Mason approaches, something peculiar happens. Within the last few feet, Mason seems to get sucked in toward Monty. Mason lifts his left arm to block the strike before delivering an attack with his right fist. Or, that was the plan. As soon as Monty's sword makes contact, the monk's arm bends back behind his shoulder and instantly turns into a wet noodle. Following through with his strike, the sword lands on Mason's shoulder, and the monk's body instantly shoots toward the ground. A sudden downward motion sends severe whiplash to Mason's neck. Before his body crashes into the ground, a massive gust of wind shoots up from beneath them. I have to stab my broken blade into the ground, just to keep myself from sliding. A roar erupts from Monty as he strains under the pressure. Within moments, the wind settles and Mason falls to the ground, unconscious. Monty immediately collapses to one knee, barely catching himself with his sword. Sweat pours down his face, and his breathing intensifies. He's exhausted. It's over, I say while looking at Monty with wide eyes. His strength is unparalleled. He is by far the most powerful swordsman I've ever met. I'd challenge to say he'd give any of our best 5 a run for their money. What is he? Monty? The question begs to be asked. Are you a natural? Slowly lifting himself to his feet with his sword, his breathing settles. He looks back to me. His eyes are tired and his body is weak. Every ounce of energy must have gone into that attack. Still lightly panting, he opens his mouth to respond.
It's not over.
A crippled voice cuts the moment short. From in front of us, a broken mason stands. His neck is bent to the side, almost falling forward. His arm is limp and dangles by his side as he takes a step. Inching his way toward Monty, Mason reaches for his face. That was it. My final throwing knife. Simon's nearly dead, and Monty will soon follow. Grabbing onto Monty's face, bones crack and pop. The swordsman doesn't make a sound. I can tell that he refuses to give this monster the satisfaction. Mason smiles and lets out a villainous laugh. My mind runs rampant as I struggle with the choice. Do I try and save them? Monty's eyes begin to roll back as he loses his consciousness. I only have a few seconds. I need them. I frantically reach down and begin to draw my summoning circle again. Almost there. Come on. Before I can finish, Mason releases his grasp on Monty. The swordsman collapses, but he's still breathing. I look up to find the monk frozen in place. His body quivers as he slowly reaches for his chest, grasping his shirt. The poison! The monk falls to his knees and rolls to his side. Pain covers his face as he gasps for air.
What's happening?
With fading strength, he speaks his final words. I wait for a moment in disbelief. Is it really over? For someone to keep fighting after an attack like that is insane. If he would have been fighting at full strength from the start, my knife wouldn't have cut him. We'd all be dead. Simon! I scramble to my feet and run toward him. Taking a knee, I check to see if he's alive. He's barely breathing. I frantically open a small pouch on my belt and look into it. Shit, only one. Without giving it much thought, I pop the top and carefully pour the blue liquid into Simon's mouth. Come on, bud. Take it. This'll fix you right up. As the vial runs dry, his wounds stop bleeding. Soon, new skin grows and his broken bones pop back into place. This potion won't restore lost limbs, but it'll heal anything else for the most part. As the healing continues, his breathing returns to normal. Good. You'll be okay. An interrupting sound of bones popping comes from behind me. I turn to see Monty sitting up with his eyes closed. His jaw pops back into place. Opening his eyes, he weakly stands up.
Well, that was rough.
Monty walks toward us and examines Simon's wounds.
Will he be all right?
I look up to him with a subtle smile and nod my head. He'll be okay. I couldn't do much about the arm, though.
He's alive. That's all that matters,
Monty replies. Cracks begin to spread throughout the bridge, and soon it starts to shake. It's clear that we don't have much time before it collapses. Shit! Help me carry him! I shout to Monty. With what little strength we have left, Monty and I lift Simon and walk toward the tunnel. More cracking and grinding sounds come from beneath us with each step. As we make it to the end, the bridge collapses and Mason's body is sent into the dark abyss. We take a seat and rest our backs against the wall. The stone has a chill to it that's almost soothing. Now that the fight's over and we finally have a minute to relax, every ache and pain rises to the surface. It's hard to move.
You should rest,
Monty says with a concerned look. I look over at him. His body is covered in bruises, scrapes, and cuts. He looks completely drained. I'll be okay, I reply. The three of us rest in the tunnel. The emptiness of it all brings comfort, and the distance from the above world brings relief. As we sit there in silence, I can't help but feel happy. For the first time in years, I feel a camaraderie. I feel an attachment. With a smirk extended across my face, Monty looks my way with a puzzled expression.
What is it?
I look to the ground and let out a slight laugh. Nothing. I've not only grown to respect Monty as a warrior, but I've come to view him as a friend. I've grown so cold to the notion of friendship, and yet he almost pulls it out of me. It's exciting and yet terrifying. I have to ask myself, how long can I maintain this charade?